Well, the unofficial first half of Major League Baseball season is over. We're at the All-Star break. It's time to reflect and to look back on what was and what has happened through the first 90-some-odd games of the Phillies season. Thought this would be a great opportunity to take a look back and give some grades out for the first half of the season, and we'll do that throughout the rest of the week. Today, we're going to start with the starting pitching, and we'll do that next right here on the PHLY Phillies podcast. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the PHLY Phillies podcast. Tyler Zulli here, and as I said, we're going to start taking a look at the grades through the entire 26-man roster, plus some of the guys that are either injured or maybe not on it right at this moment that have shaped the first half of the Phillies season. Let's start with the starting pitching, and I think a lot of these grades are going to be pretty easy to determine, pretty reflective of the year that the Phillies have had. For the most part, the Phillies starting rotation has been really, really good. Maybe the best in baseball, especially at the top three. So let's start with the ace of the staff, Zack Wheeler. Let's take a look at Zack Wheeler's numbers. 19 starts so far this year, a 2.36 ERA, and that number actually went up after his final start of the first half against the Padres this weekend. The domination is just undeniable. 154 strikeouts over just 122 innings pitched. He's walked just 26 batters, and you see all of the red on his Baseball Savant page, whether it be expected numbers, the amount of hard hit contact that he's limited, the amount of contact that he's given up has been excellent. Hard hit percentages, he doesn't walk guys. His strikeout rates are through the roof. He gets a lot of swing and miss. His chase rates are there. Everything that you've come to expect from Zack Wheeler is pretty much highlighted right on that Baseball Savant page. But the number that stands out to me, at 34 years old, Zack Wheeler is on pace for the best whip of his career, a 0.861 whip for Zack Wheeler. He has given up just 105 base runners in 122 innings pitched. That's absurd. It's absurd for a reliever. It's absurd for anybody. It's absurd for video game numbers. Zack Wheeler, we've talked about it plenty in the past. He's getting better and better and better as his career goes on. And you see all of those categories that he leads the league in, or at least the National League in. Strikeouts, whip, hits per nine, strikeouts per nine. Zack Wheeler is on pace for a Cy Young candidate type of season. And I think the reality is, if Zack Wheeler keeps up the marks that he is on for the first half into the second half of the season, unless the voters want to go and turn to the young Paul Skeens, who's been excellent in his own right, a sub-2 ERA, I think this is finally the year that Zack Wheeler is crowned the National League Cy Young winner. This is an easy one, my friends. The grade for Zack Wheeler this so far in the first half is an A. Easy as it comes. Let's move on. Cristopher Sanchez, I think, also gets an A so far this season. Because of expectations coming into the year, they were higher than they've ever been for Cristopher Sanchez, and he's delivered. The season that he put together, especially in the first half of 2024, netted him an all-star appearance. And quite frankly, Cristopher Sanchez, we've talked about this before, should have been an all-star again this year because his numbers are better than they were a season ago. 19 starts for Sanchez himself, a 2.50 ERA. He struck out more than a batter per inning pitched. 119 strikeouts in just under 112 innings pitched. Now, the whip is a little bit higher than Zack Wheeler's because, first and foremost, Zack Wheeler's is off the charts good. But Cristopher Sanchez has walked a few more hitters, given up more hits, 95 hits allowed in the 111 and two-thirds innings. But everything that Cristopher Sanchez has done, the maturation process that Cristopher Sanchez has gone through in the last 2 years, but even specifically in this year, has led to the fact that Cristopher Sanchez currently has a top 5 odd to win the Cy Young himself, despite the fact that I think his teammate, Zack Wheeler, is probably going to end up winning it. He has a career-best strikeout rate, 26.3%. That's the big difference. Everything that Cristopher Sanchez has done so far throughout his career has been pretty consistent and gotten better. The ground ball rates are through the roof, 58, almost 59% ground ball rates, but that's been Cristopher Sanchez his whole career. A neutralizing changeup for Cristopher Sanchez paired with increased velocity. We know that he gets a lot of ground balls, but the swing and miss stuff for Sanchez has been better than it's been in any point of his career. A 26.3% strikeout rate, the highest of his career. He's walking a little bit more than he did last season, but a very respectable 6.6% walk rate. The whiffs are up 78%. Chase rate continues to be within the top 20 percentile at 31%. Everything that Cristopher Sanchez has done this year has been excellent. He would be an ace on a lot of staffs, but it just so happens that the ace on his staff is on track to win the Cy Young. I think this is another one, another easy grade. Cristopher Sanchez also gets an A for the first half of the season. Let's move on to the third guy who's having an excellent season, and it's Ranger Suarez. Now, Ranger Suarez has not made as many starts as the other two because of the fact that he missed the first month of the season due to injury, but Suarez has been just as impressive. 13 starts, a sub-2 ERA for Ranger Suarez, 83 and 2/3 innings pitched, just shy of a strikeout per inning pitched. He's been more of a contact pitcher, but the one thing that we've laid out, the contact has been weak. He's given up just 66 hits and has just over a 1 whip for the season so far, 1.052 whip. But the reason that he's been so good, as you see on the bottom, the lowest fourth graphic there, is he has the best average exit velocity of all starting pitchers across baseball. Only Caleb Ferguson of the Pittsburgh Pirates, who's a reliever, has a better average exit velocity than Ranger Suarez's 84.4%. You know he doesn't dazzle with electrifying fastball or wipeout stuff, but he's got 5 pitches that he trusts. He mixes them in effectively. You don't know what Ranger Suarez is going to throw next. He doesn't get barreled. He limits hard contact. He himself keeps the ball on the ground at a pretty strong rate. He doesn't walk hitters, and he's able to generate chase because of the fact that you just don't know what's coming next out of Ranger Suarez's hand. Sinker, cutter, changeup, curveball, they all work in tandem, and it's why he's able to keep the ball down in the zone, be effective outside of the zone, and limit hard contact. So while Ranger Suarez hasn't made as many starts as Sanchez or Wheeler, and maybe there's a little bit of Phillies bias involved, I don't think it's outside of the realm of reality to say this is the third straight A that we're going to hand out. The starts are the only thing that hold him back, but if he were at 18 and have these numbers, we'd be talking about him in the Cy Young candidacy as well. Ranger Suarez has been really good all season long. For the third consecutive starting pitcher, we get an A. Now, we're not handing out any more A's for the rest of the season because the rest of the guys have had some flaws throughout the year. Let's get to the next starting pitcher and talk about Jesus Luzardo. Jesus Luzardo has been a polarizing starting pitcher for the Phillies this year because outside of the 2 starts against the Toronto Blue Jays and the Milwaukee Brewers, you can't forget those starts. They happened, right? They existed. He gave up 20 earned runs in 5 2/3 innings against those 2 starters. But let's take a look at the rest of Jesus Luzardo's numbers here for the 2025 season. They've been excellent. Outside of those 2 starts, Jesus Luzardo has posted a 2.55 ERA. Now, the ERA itself is nothing to write home about. It is a 4.14. And the probably most concerning number is the high whip. It's at a 1.409. The walks are fairly high at 36, but not unmanageable. It is the hits that he's allowed that have really kind of bolstered that 1.4 whip through the first 19 starts of the season. He's an interesting case of numbers versus eye test because, as we said, if you take out those 2 starts, he's been dominant this year. He's had one other bad start beside that. But really, if you think about it, I could sit here and tell you that 14 or 15 of his 19 starts have been excellent, and he's come through when it matters most. His starts so far this year against playoff teams that include the New York Mets, the Chicago Cubs twice, the LA Dodgers, the San Francisco Giants, have been elite, but he's generating a lot of whiff. He's striking out a lot of hitters. He's not getting barreled. He has given up a little bit more hard contact than the other 3, but I think for the most part, he's been a really reliable starting pitcher for this team, and outside of those 2 starts, has been excellent through the season. He's not going to get an A because those 2 starts did happen. He has had a couple of other clunkers in there as well, but I do think it's fair to give Jesus Luzardo for a bulk of the season a really strong grade. I was leaning towards a B+, but I do think at the end of the day, because of those 2 really bad starts, the season as a whole, we'll go with a B. The numbers will reflect a B. But I think if you take those 2 starts out, he's really close to an A- type of starter. But those 2 starts did happen, and we'll give Jesus Luzardo a B for the first half of the season. All right, let's move on to the next starter who hasn't pitched in quite some time for the Phillies. It's Aaron Nola. And I think the conversation is pretty easy to determine Aaron Nola's season so far. 9 starts, a 6.16 ERA. And whether you're an Aaron Nola fan or an Aaron Nola hater, it is easy to say Aaron Nola's first 9 starts of the year before going on the injured list with initially an ankle injury and then the rib injury that's kept him sidelined for a majority of the season. Aaron Nola wasn't good in his first 9 starts. 49 innings pitched, just shy of 50. The strikeout rates are good, 52 strikeouts in less than 50 innings pitched, but he did give up 59 hits and 75 base runners in those 49 innings, leading to the 1.51 whip so far this season. These are his first real missed starts since the 2017 season. He's been as reliable as they come, but 2025 has undoubtedly been his most challenging year to date. He's given up a lot of hard contact. Yes, he's generated a lot of chase, as you saw on that Baseball Savant page, but his numbers across the board just have not been good. He wasn't throwing nearly as many strike ones as he did throughout most of his career. He wasn't throwing nearly as many strikes as he did, and that was forcing him to get barreled quite a bit and give up a lot of hard contact because of the fact that he had to come back into the zone with a diminishing velocity fastball, and it just has not been a good year for Aaron Nola. I think this is an easy grade. Aaron Nola, through the first 9 starts that he made so far this year, he gets an F. Aaron Nola's season had been awful to the point of him having to go on the IL, and whether he's truly still hurt or not, this has been the worst season of Aaron Nola's career. It's an F to this point for Aaron Nola. All right, let's go to the young kid who made his Major League debut back in May. We'll take a look at Mick Abel. Now, some up and down starts for Abel. In 6 starts, a 5.04 ERA. Hasn't gone deep into games, less than 4 innings pitched per start. The first couple of starts were really, really good. They've gotten worse as the season has gone on. The walks were in check up until that last start against the San Diego Padres, where he gave up a lot of walks, including 2 with the bases loaded. Command was very good in the first couple of starts. It wasn't so good later in the next 4 starts. It's why, as in large part, he was sent back down to AAA. The Phillies didn't need him for a 3-week stretch or so they decided to get him more reps in Lehigh Valley. He took 6 no-hit innings in his first start back with the Iron Pigs. It's been, a little bit of growing pains for a young kid who made his Major League debut just about 2 months ago. I think Mick Abel gets a C for this season. A couple of really good starts, a couple of really bad starts. I wasn't expecting anything from Mick Abel this year so far. So what you got was more than my expectations. I'm going to give Mick Abel a C. I think if you balance out the good and the bad, it comes out to be just about average, kind of just about what we saw was what we got from Mick Abel. A lot of hard contact, got away with it in the first couple of starts, didn't get away with it in the last couple of starts, and then the command started to falter a little bit, as I said, especially in that Padres game. I'm going to give Mick Abel a C. I do expect to see Mick Abel either in the rotation or in the bullpen for the Phillies up until the trade deadline. Then we'll see what happens. Maybe he's a piece to be facilitated in a trade for some Major League help. The last guy that I wanted to talk about has gone back and forth between the starting rotation and the bullpen, and I do think he deserves a little bit of credit. It's Taiwan Walker. He's made 20 appearances this year, 9 starts for the Phillies, and overall has posted a 3.55 ERA, and you can see his ERA as a starter is 3.47. He was thrust into the starting role because they had some injuries, and Ranger Suarez wasn't ready. When he returned, he went back to the bullpen. Then he made a couple of starts in the absence of Aaron Nola. Then Mick Abel came up, and then he made another start just this past week. It's been a roller coaster season for Taiwan Walker, but the numbers are actually fairly good for a guy that we had no expectations for. Didn't expect him to strike out a ton of hitters, but the whip is about 1.3. He's thrown 58 innings this year, and his numbers as a starter have been okay. I give the guy a lot of credit. He's been bounced around between the bullpen and the starting rotation quite a bit. The numbers you see on the Baseball Savant page are as expected, not generating a lot of whiff, not getting a lot of strikeouts. Walk rates are higher than I would hope. Not getting barreled or hard hit as much as we expected. And the expected ERA is right on pace with what his actual ERA is. So I don't think Taiwan Walker has been bad this year. I know we get on Walker for the 2024 season that he posted, and rightfully so. He was terrible last year. This has been a pretty good year from Taiwan Walker. Nothing crazy, nothing like over the moon, but I think Taiwan Walker's had himself a fairly good season for the Phillies, especially when he's called upon to make spot starts throughout the year. I'm going to give Taiwan Walker a C+. He's a 3.5 ERA throughout the year, and he's been jostled back and forth between the bullpen and the starting rotation. So Taiwan Walker, as I've said before, tip of the cap to you, sir. You've done your job. And that's really all I can expect, because my expectations for Walker this year were literally on the floor. So I got to give the guy a lot of credit. That's our grades throughout the starting rotation. A lot of high marks, as expected. This is one of the best rotations in all of baseball. They run at least 4 deep. And outside of those 2 bad Jesus Luzardo starts, you really have gotten 4 ace quality starts or starters out of the first half of the season.